Well, they did put a lot of money into this. Maybe something will surprise me. Apparently I'm a psychic, because I predicted this. Hello again! Welcome back to another episode of Coverit, a series where we judge a comic book by its cover. And this episode is going to be an interesting one. We are going to discuss the current lenticular covers that have begun their release. And for any of you out there that don't really read comics and just come in on this channel because you think I'm super cute, first of all, aww, thank you! And secondly, I'll give you a small rundown. Axel Alonso was the past editor-in-chief at Marvel Comics for the era. Under his reign, we received critical hits like non-stop barrage of events, heavy pushes for SJW content, mocking fans, mocking your own artists, death of characters for no reason, and to top it all off, giving his wholehearted approval for Secret Empire. So, after several bad decisions and loss of sales, Mickey Mouse couldn't ignore this much longer. And so Alonso had to pull a Hail Mary to save his career. He gathered the creators together to create their own rebirth and call it Legacy. It was marketed as the comic that would bring back classic Marvel storytelling. They hyped it up, throwing the announcement everywhere, doing all sorts of PR with tons of publicity. They planned all sorts of things that would occur once Legacy kicked off. They paraded this one shot with such glory and hype. And guess what happened? In spectacular Alonso fashion, it flopped. How bad? Oh, you know, the Marvel level's a failure. But it's Alonso, so it had to be worse. The time leading up to this event came a massive storm of one fiasco after another. These included, but not limited to, comic shops rioting, madness at New York Comic Con, a cancellation of a weird team-up they planned with some cyber company, and several of their creators being revealed to have joined a group bent on beating up a cancer-coughing YouTuber because he said their stuff sucked. That's definitely one way to end your job. So now Alonso is gone from Marvel. But Marvel still has to deal with the aftermath. You see, Marvel planned that after Legacy, they would hype their comic lines by giving them some lenticular covers. And since it was already planned in advance, they just roll with it. But you're probably asking yourself, what is a lenticular cover? Well, remember when you were a kid and you'd get a free toy in the cereal box? And sometimes that free toy was a random little weird foily holographic card, and if you moved it slightly, the picture would change? That's a lenticular. They made a whole entire cover on that. Marvel's lenticulars, aka Legacy lenticulars, are themed to be homages to classic Marvel covers. They show the original and then a remastered version for the present day. The original covers are from various iconic pieces from all time periods and comics within the Marvel line, while remastered spruces it up to fit with the certain comic it's premiering in. This means the characters and artwork are updated to match the present time. Sounds nice. Until you learn that Marvel was also refusing to give comic shops these covers unless said comic shops ordered an ungodly amount of these Marvel series. Some order requirements range from ordering 150% to 200% more stock of a single title. I consider it like the microtransaction of comics. Marvel is the end, he wants your wallet. But lenticulars aren't only a Marvel thing. The second of the big two, DC, jumped on board and started doing their own lenticulars. These were released far earlier in the year and appeared once in a while within their larger storylines and events. And the kicker to all this? DC didn't charge shops a dime for these. They remained the same price as a normal cover. So comic shops could happily get a few of these variants without worry. DC's lenticulars are very small compared to Marvel's never-ending barrage. They are only produced for selected storylines and events. These lenticulars have been seen for Action Comics' The Oz Effect, the deluxe edition of the Button Story, and the recently released Doomsday Clock. All these lenticulars probably sound really fun, but don't forget, a gimmick is just a gimmick. And people are getting wise to these gimmicks now. A lot won't purchase them just cause it's said to be special. Also, like we discussed in the past, several comic shops don't let you read inside, so this gimmick has to look really cool to get a purchase from a customer. And who did handle it better? Marvel is releasing a larger amount of their comics and are nods to iconic covers of the past. But DC has picked out their Lenticulars to be for big events and storylines and don't cost comic shops a pretty penny. But that's what this episode is all about. We are going to look at the selection and see who handles their Lenticulars better. Now, Marvel has a larger pile of Lenticulars, and we'd be here for way too long if we went through every one. Instead, we will be comparing several of their current releases to all of DC's. So today from DC's line, we're going to be looking through the Lenticulars released for Action Comics The Oz Effect 5-part series. And for Marvel, their chosen Lenticulars will be homages to classic X-Men covers, one of the greatest comic book teams of all time, with some of the most iconic covers. So without further ado, let's start things off by checking out the Oz Effect and their 5 lenticular covers. So, it's an S. A Superman S. With the word hope at the bottom. With some gray clouds. Neat. Oh, look! Now a bunch of dead people make the S. Instead of hope, we have Oz written on the bottom, and the sky is now orange. Oh, this means Oz is destruction. Oh my god! I can't even pretend this is good. This is your gimmick? This is what you give your readers? Superman's logo with some bland sky? And then morphs into another bland image with dead people? Can you make mass murder bland? 'Cause you did it. This is really boring. Oh, this is so pretty. Look at it. This is fantastic. How did you start with part 1 and then this? How? You see Superman's parents being forced to fly their child off their dying world. Their faces show sadness as they look down at him, and he is full of innocence and joy as a baby. And now Krypton dies in a fiery explosion. The two parents hold hands staring at each other as they meet their end, yet the whole scene is drawn to look very much like an iconic moment in the classic Watchmen series. Fitting, because we all know Superman is tied to Manhattan. Oh my gosh, this cover is so pretty. I love it. I love it. I want to marry it and then cheat on it with the alternative lenticular cover for this issue, which I sadly can't show because we only have 5 versus 5. The rest of the Superman variants I have found and owned are from Nicholas Bradshaw, and I'm not the biggest fan of his art, but hey, he does a pretty okay job. So we have Superman holding the world with love and care. He's looking down at it with a small smile filled with content. And Oz lets the world crumble and burn in his hands as he stares at you with his one eye, judging you. He knows what you were doing last night. He's not happy about it. It's certainly not as awesome as part 2, but definitely not as bad as part 1. I mean, it's a nice lenticular that tells you what you are sort of in for when you read this issue, and I'll give it props for that. But that's really about it. Aw, isn't this nice? Superman and Superboy fly through a bright blue sky as father and son. Their faces are beaming with joy as they look upwards towards a future adventure. Not a worry on their minds. And now the scene changes to Oz and John on a flight more akin to a patrol. And these two are beaming. Laser beaming. They are shown to be attacking what you can only probably guess are citizens down below. Instead of looking up with happiness and hope, The two look down in disgust and judgment. Also, John's body gestures from the change are really good. It's a pretty okay cover, but I definitely have issues with it, mostly with the drawing. John is drawn fantastic in both scenes. Meanwhile, Superman? He looks really weird. I know he's a buff and powerful guy, but this is way too big. It looks like his super suit is about to rip off from all his muscles. His forearms are fatter than his head. It looks bad. And it's really weird, because Oz looks pretty okay. I think it's because he wears a lot of that loose clothing. But hey, that's just me. Superman is chained with what looks to be kryptonite in his supposed father's hand. Oz looks at him, awaiting the moment that Superman finally admits defeat. But screw that, he's Superman! Superman breaks free of his holdings to the shock of Oz, giving off the faint feeling of resistance and never submitting, even when everything seems hopeless. And once again, I can't stand how Supes is drawn. I swear, what is keeping your clothes together right now? How has the fabric not ripped apart because of all that muscular movement? I can't see this guy wearing the Clark Kent getup. Actually getting away with it. He's way too buff. Still, it's a nice little cover, but I'm going to say it's better than 3, but not as good as 4. So those were the Oz Effect covers. Part 1 is the weakest out of the bunch because it's an S. If I wanted to get all hyped up on a letter from the alphabet, I'd watch some Sesame Street. Part 2 is definitely the best out of them all. Look at it. It's so pretty. Meanwhile, 3 through 5 do showcase some fun art, aside from Superman being built like a behemoth, but they aren't as immense or powerful compared to Part 2. It just seems like there was no need to make them lenticulars, and they could have just been fine as regular common covers. Then again, there was no cost to readers to pick them up, so I guess they don't lose any points in that regard. So now that we have all 5 of the Superman covers out of the way, let's see the 5 homage covers from one of the best, if not greatest, comic book teams of all time, X-Men! So this looks like it's a cover from the Dark Phoenix saga back in the day. Nice little face she's showing with some good perspective, got those classic shock lines that give off that action atmosphere. You know, you don't see those often in current comics. It's just mostly in manga now. Is it just me, or does the Kingpin look like a generic bodyguard grunt? He doesn't look like a powerful head boss. He just looks like a bumbling idiot lackey of the boss. The scenery's emotion isn't as menacing as the original either, and the area just seems more like blank space. They should have given us some of those dynamic lines. It just feels so empty. It needs something there. I know the first one wasn't that great either, but this, it's really missing the mark. Okay, this is a really cool cover. It showcases the X-Men going head to head with one another. And in the center, you see Xavier is actually standing. He's standing. It really makes you want to know what on earth is going on. And look at all their faces. They are ready for a beatdown. Why is this so cartoony? Why is everyone's faces so weird? No one looks like they're taking this rumble seriously. Look at Colossus. He's just posing for the audience. He isn't even fighting. He's just ready for his close-up. He's just flexing. And everyone is jogging. Jogging. They're just jogging towards their opponent. And Mojo's chair is an arrow? Is that supposed to be like a homage thing for that arrow in the original? But that arrow, that had text and was explaining Xavier betrayed everyone in some way. And this, it's just an arrow. And Mojo's tilted. Everyone else is positioned on a flat surface that is the non-existent floor. But Mojo decided to screw it and just tilt his body 45 degrees to the left. Also, I would have thought Mojo was to be our focal point. But thanks to the positioning, he just seems more like something in the background. Colossus becomes our main thing to look at since he takes up most of the page and crowds everyone so he can show off his muscles to the non-existent fanbase that will buy this book. Look, I'm sorry. This is a very talented artist, but not for X-Men comics. X-Men comics need a more realistic style to represent the serious tones they possess. This art gives off a feel of lightheartedness and whimsy. It's a style you'd see in cartoons that don't have a lot of action or intrigue. It just doesn't belong here. Now that's an X-Men cover. This issue's cover is incredibly iconic to most comic fans. To this day, it remains to be a breathtaking piece. You can immediately tell from this scene alone that Kitty and Wolverine are wanted fugitives on the run. You see the fear and rage on their faces and somewhat feel the terror of being hunted down in a single scene. The colors do a great job at giving off a feel like being exposed to everyone. I don't know how to really say it in words, but it's like you have this feeling of they couldn't hide forever and there's no escape. It brings out that terror. Oh, what the frag is happening? There's all these weird designs going on. Are they supposed to be Black Bolt Shout? Because it looks stupid. Is that Brick in the background? I've never seen bricks that are the size of a baby hippo. The artist was literally too lazy to make more than 5 bricks. So they just made them bigger to compensate and have less to draw. But they haven't really made anything. There's so much blank space on this. Are these white designs supposed to be Black Bolt Shout? And what is with this random stuff on the bottom? We got rocks and some feather swirls. Are they on drugs? Is this some sort of acid trip? Because it looks like an acid trip. And the defeated Inhumans on the poster are done in a different styles, so it just clashes with the picture. The original cover was meant to be terrifying and menacing and give off the feel of vulnerability. But this? There's nothing scary about this picture. You don't feel powerless when looking at this. You feel like you need to do some drugs. Okay, so this is another old 90s cover, and I'll be honest, I'm not a fan of this one. I really do feel like it could have used some background color, maybe some shading of some sort, maybe some light gray. But I do love the detail on everyone's faces. Even Mojo's face is really nice to look at. Yeah, Mojo. A lot of emotion is showcased. Even the characters on the TV screen are made to look like they are watching the scene in horror. That's really nice. What the heck is going on here? Is that Jareth from the Labyrinth being strangled by an obese woman? And what are these images in the background? They aren't TVs like the original, are they? It's like, it's so sketchy and weak that it just comes off as someone's warm-up sketch. Like, I didn't like the last one, but this is horribly weaker. I mean, look at all the people's faces and... Oh, what the heck? Is that Jean Grey? What's with her face? Oh my god. Her eyes. She looks like a fish. Someone called the aquarium. One of their attractions just escaped. Oh my gosh, this is so bad. I mean, I'd rather have the background is just a bunch of screens of Hulk's legacy nipple. No. I'm serious. It'd probably look better. See? It really does make the whole scene pop. You know? You did something wrong when Hulk's nipple is more appealing. Woo! It's a dang Sentinel pick! I love those pink purple racist robots. Look how they present the emphasis of power and defeat. Wolverine is showing anguish as he's blasted by this beautiful detailed blast, and Storm goes limp in the robot's hands, showing she has been defeated. And the shadowing. Oh, that shadowing. Oh, baby. It really makes the blast look even more powerful. Oh, everything about this is so nice. Is that Baymax? Is that knockoff Baymax pimp smacking Medusa and Black Bolt? What is this? It's not terrifying, it's just ridiculous to look at. Look, its dumb head looks like what you get when a smart car and a computer mouse make a baby. And besides the menacing monster design, it's still horrible. The colors are flat and once again too bright. Every one of these covers are way too bright. I love bright colors, but these X-Men covers are meant to be scary and dark and worrisome, so you need to emphasize that with darker colors. And let's not forget that the shading is so weak the picture comes off flat. Look at Medusa in his hand. She doesn't look like she's really injured or defeated. She looks more like she's planking. And Black Bolt is no better. We can't see his face or eyes, so it looks more like we're looking at a mannequin with his clothes on. There's no emotion there, so how can we really feel for him being in pain? And I don't care how interesting the digital art to the laser blast is. It's not fun to look at. It's just confusing. You can tell from the past image that the Sentinel is blasting Logan with stuff that hurts, but does Baymax's blast do that? Is it supposed to be doing something else? I can't tell. The detail on this doesn't come off as forceful or fast. It comes off as slow and weak. Like it's sucking out his soul? Is it supposed to be healing him? Is that what it's supposed to be? The little tag on the cover did say, "Everybody lives." So, is it healing him? But their bodies don't give off that impression. Even with the emotionless, stiff Inhumans, it still looks like some sort of fight. This whole cover is giving me mixed messages.
So that concludes the Superman X-Men Lenticular lineup. It says something when I'd rather buy a random foil ES on the cover than any of Marvel's 5 choices.
This is definitely not a homage to something great. It's literally all that Marvel has been in current years. Money-making gimmicks. This is all it is to them. They don't care and they don't try because they think the consumer will buy them regardless. And please, don't prove them right. And yes, some of these Superman covers aren't that great. I mean, that's an S. But at least most of them showed and proved to have heart and effort. Meanwhile, these X-Men covers seem kind of... And no. Don't get me wrong. There are actually some great Marvel Lenticulars in this heap of nightmares, but their X-Men ones just aren't hitting the mark. I do know a ton of them that actually were really nice. I mean, I own the Renew Your Vows Lenticular, and that's okay. And from what I've seen, the most gorgeous one out of them all, it's the damn Punisher War Machine cover. It's the best one, and I hate that story. I may go into detail about the good covers later on in the future, but for now, nuh-uh. This took forever to make. I am done. If you like this video, give it a like. And if you want to see more of my stuff, do subscribe and hit that bell. Go leave me a comment below and tell me what you liked, hated, or suggest what I should do in the future. I try and listen to everything that you guys say. And, after all this crazy chaos, I think I'm gonna go treat myself. I'm gonna leave us all off with a showcasing of the alternative issue 2 cover of the Oz Effect. Oh, yes. Oh, you're so beautiful. Ah, I want them all. You're so cute. Yes, you are. Yes, you are. Yes, you are. You're so beautiful.